Hello and welcome to the Moonshine Jesus Show. We're glad to be back with you after a couple of weeks away. We are brought to you, as always, by progressivechristianity.org, a wonderful place to get all your progressive Christian resource needs. The Christian Left and the Progressive Christian Alliance. Grateful for all of those sponsors. Hope you will follow all of them on social media and that you'll subscribe to the Moonshine Jesus Show wherever you get your podcasts. I'm joined today, as always, by Mark Samlin. How you doing today, Mark?
Hola, ¿qué pasa, mi amigo?
Estoy bien.
It's Cinco
It's
de
Cinco
Mayo
de
today.
Mayo.
I'm just ready to celebrate it. You know,
Yeah, I love it.
why not? Why not?
Español fue mi subespecialidad en la universidad, pero necesito
Sí,
más practicar. So,
sí, es verdad. Muy bien.
yeah. So I minored in Spanish, but I'm very rusty. Okay,
I'm
it's been a
incredibly
very
rusty.
long time.
I
So,
did a summer of intensive studies, and I think I just exhausted all that I knew right there.
Okay, I'm pretty sure me too. We tried, Mark. I
Fair enough.
hope that I
I
hope
hope
that
it was honoring in whatever way that we didn't step on or make fun of or torture the language too much.
mine was pretty torturous. I need
I
some
think mine
practice,
was too,
but you know
probably.
what?
So,
Whatever. I'm
yeah.
glad you're here today, Mark. For
Glad to
Cinco de
be here.
Mayo. Today we're talking about Mickey 17, and as always, we just have to warn you that if you haven't seen it yet, we will spoil it for you. We're going to get real in depth and talking
Yeah.
about Mickey 17. So, Mark, before we
Yes.
do, you need a drink. I need a drink. Do you
Yes,
have
indeed.
one?
I do. And I just basically Googled
Okay.
what's a good cocktail for Mickey 17. Weirdly, not a joke. The first thing that popped up was something called the Expendable Margarita.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's
And you
perfect.
know,
That's for Cinco de Mayo too.
expendable
Yeah.
for Cinco de Mayo, expendable. We certainly have
Yeah. Yeah.
the main character's expendable. I don't know why they call it expendable because, frankly, it's just a margarita. Maybe it's expendable because once it's emptied, I can fill it right back up. That's the only thing I
Oh,
can figure. So
that's
that's what
nice.
I'm having, an
I
expendable
I like that.
margarita.
That's thematic on 2 counts. I
I
love that.
tried
I
my
love the
best.
way you double dip there to hit both
I did
things.
my best. I
Good
did
job.
my best. What direction you go in?
Okay, so I was thinking about if I were dying all the
Mm,
time and getting copied, what would
yeah.
I need on a spaceship to make it through? And I thought,
Yeah,
you know what? I just need some bourbon. And so
absolutely.
I've just got a little glass, some
That's
bourbon that
lovely.
I found, and that is what I'm drinking today. Just
Nothing wrong with that.
bourbon
That's
neat.
far as I'm concerned, that is always a good call.
Thank you. Cheers to you, Mark.
Cheers.
Let's have a drink, and we'll be back after the drop.
Moonshine Jesus, Moonshine Jesus, Moonshine Jesus, Moonshine Jesus, won't you shine a light?
Hello and welcome to our Geek Out segment where we're going to geek out about this show a little bit. We'll try to keep it pretty concise and packed in there so we can move on to our next segment, the part that really matters, where we talk more about the theology and the politics of the film. So a lot of folks may not know it. It didn't quite do as well in the box office as they were thinking that it would, which is interesting. It comes from an award-winning director, and it stars Robert Pattinson, which is obviously a fan favorite for a lot of folks. So for those who aren't familiar with it, Mickey 17 is based on a book called Mickey 7. And as I said, it's a Bong Joon Ho film starring Robert Pattinson as a character, Mickey Barnes. And expendable, as you heard the word used in my drink. He's an expendable on a space colonization mission. And our lead character, Mickey, is tasked with perilous jobs and is repeatedly cloned as he dies each time. But he does retain his memories each time. And the plot basically thickens when the 17th version of him, known as Mickey 17, is presumed dead and returns, though, to find Mickey 18 already active, forcing them to sort of coexist secretly to avoid execution because it's illegal to have two clones that are coexisting together. So I'm curious, man. Had you heard of this before we decided to do it? And then what was your overall kind of just feeling? What did you think about the movie?
I didn't know anything about it. I wasn't even sure if it had been in theaters or if it was just released to streaming platforms. I
Mhm.
had seen a couple of ads, like trailers. I hadn't really watched them, but
Yeah,
I saw them pop up. And so I had mentioned I thought it was like an AI generated thing. I
right.
just hadn't heard about the movie for whatever reason. And
Yeah.
so I went in a little skeptical. And I would say I enjoyed it for what it was, and
Okay.
it was kind of fun to watch. It 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 wasn't a movie that I was real excited to go back and watch again, or anything like that. But I thought it was entertaining. I thought it said
Mhm,
something
mhm.
significant. I thought the concept was interesting, and I thought that uh, the actors were kind of fun. I thought Mark Ruffalo did a great job of really playing up
Yeah.
the crazy leader
Right.
position. I thought that Robert Pattinson was interesting in playing the different versions of the
Mhm.
character. I enjoyed watching it, and it was okay. Is the
Okay.
review I would give the movie? How
Fair
about
enough.
you? How
You
did
know,
you feel about it?
I I'm not a Pattinson fan. Wait a minute,
Yeah.
I need to back up. I wasn't a Pattinson fan. We'll get
Oh,
to that.
okay.
I
Yeah.
want to come back and talk about both Pattinson and Ruffalo,
Yeah.
but let's just kind of a more general sense. I wasn't that terribly excited about it either. I thought it could be interesting. Were you familiar with Bong Joon Ho before? Joon Ho? Okay,
Mm-mm.
he did. I knew him from Okjo and Snowpiercer, two movies that I absolutely adore.
Okay,
So
yeah, I saw Snowpiercer. I like that.
uh,
I didn't watch the series, but I watched the movie.
Okja was also
Yeah.
a fantastic movie. I was really into it. Um, and so I had hopes, high hopes, and he won Best Director Oscar for Parasite,
Yeah.
which was also a really good movie. And so I had high hopes. I do think it's sort of different. I like that it's a different sci-fi movie.
Mhm.
It gave us something that felt sort of new, which
Yeah.
I liked a lot.
Uh-huh.
I thought there were periods where the pacing was a little too slow.
Yeah.
I felt like the 2 hour plus movie was not necessary to
Mhm.
get done what was being done. But in general, I really liked this film. I liked it.
Yeah.
I liked it quite a bit. Um, and one of the things that hooked me early on, I'm curious what you thought, were the
Yeah.
visuals.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting because it's got a kind of a flat palette,
Yeah.
but the shots are so incredibly well constructed and put together.
Yeah.
What did you think about the visuals?
Yeah, I mean, we meet Mickey 17 on this planet, this ice planet, and so it is very white and very
Mhm.
bland, but it's but yeah, it is very striking. And I think that one thing that really was accomplished here is some you feeling like you're in a different kind of place. And so I think
Yeah.
like you're on the spaceship, getting to explore that a little bit, getting to see what the planet was like. That yeah, that really is something that was very striking in the film, was that you could see the visuals, and it was interesting. I liked that. I liked,
Yeah.
and I really liked the humor in the film too. I thought
Yeah.
the humor was
Well,
something.
I was gonna ask you about that. So there was humor in this sci-fi. What would you say was the genre of this movie?
It's kind of hard to classify, isn't it? It's there's
Right?
there's some humor, there's some action, there's some I mean, it's a sci-fi movie, but
Yeah.
it's also it's a political commentary. It's
Exactly.
there's a lot of stuff going on
It,
here
it,
in
I
those
mean, it's
2
interesting.
hours.
It is new. I think that's one of the
Yeah.
pieces that's new. It really is a conflation of, like you were saying, science fiction, dark comedy,
Mhm.
political satire. I mean, it almost created its own genre. Uh, p- poly snark sci-fi. I don't know. I
Poly
don't know what.
snark sci-fi. I
I
like
don't
that.
know.
If that's a subgenre, I think I think
I'm
that's
all
my
about it.
subgenre. Yeah, I
I'm
love
all
that.
about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be in for that if we could get more of those films. Bring them on. It kind of
I-
fits the Moonshine Jesus show really well. So that'd be
our
fantastic.
personalities too,
Absolutely. Yep. Bring
I
it
I
on.
think
I'm with
so.
you.
Yeah.
I'm completely with you. I'm completely with you. So let's talk a little bit more about some of our lead
Yeah.
actors. What do you think about Pattinson in this role? Because
So
he's playing dual roles, right? On
yes, he
screen at
is.
the same
Yep.
time. And frequently, even with all the best technology, dual roles where the character's on screen with himself or herself at the same time, it can play really awkward and weird, and as a viewer, you kind of get pulled out because you see what's going on.
Mhm. Yeah, so I didn't feel like that happened here. I felt like he
Agreed.
did a good job of playing the different characters and playing them in such a way that you could also tell who he was based on his mannerisms and the way he was speaking
Sure.
and all of that. And so I thought he did a really good job with that. I guess I'm kind of indifferent about Robert Pattinson just as an actor. Like I
Yeah.
don't dislike him. Like I know you weren't a fan of
Mm.
Robert Pattinson. So I don't dislike him, and I liked him in like the Batman, but I don't have any strong feelings about him either way. But I thought
Yeah.
in this role, I thought he did a really good job of playing Mickey and playing these multiple
Yeah.
roles because it's kind of a challenge to do that and to find a different way to play the characters while still being yourself and being a clone. It's kind of a complicated role. I thought he did a good job. It
Yep.
sounds like you're a Pattinson convert now.
Yeah, I definitely am. I was kind of like not a Pattinson fan. I thought that his acting personally for me was never really there. It was always sort of one note and not particularly interesting. I
Mhm.
found him as Batman passable, but not really
Yeah.
likable. He was fine. I was like, whatever. It could have been anybody if they'd have played it that way, and I'd have been like, fine, whatever. He changed my mind here completely
Mm,
because I'm completely with you. I think particularly in this role, it's a clone. So there's got to be similarities between them,
yeah.
but they make sure that you understand that each one is distinct and different, even though they
Mhm.
have the same memories. Being able to pull that off with different voices. I mean, even the voice he used
Yeah.
For Mark 17, for Mickey 17,
Wait, are
was
you a clone? Wait, are
I wasn't
which mark
I,
are you?
I,
What number
well,
are you?
238. 238.
Wow.
It has been a rough year. It's been a rough year.
Oh, just this year. Wow.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
But I thought that he really did a brilliant job, and literally, I mean, his voice was
Mhm.
just from the get go from Mickey
Yes.
17. It was not Pattinson's voice. I
No,
mean, he
he
was,
did a good
and he
job.
played it so well, and it was so authentic and so real. And the differences, like you said, between the two were distinct. You immediately knew which character was which just by even the way he stood. I mean,
Yeah.
it was exceptional. He won me over. I'm a fan now. I don't know if I'm going to continue to be a fan depending on what roles he picks, but as an actor, he's won my respect. I certainly think of him
At
as a
least in this one.
as
What's a Pattinson fan called? Like a
oh,
Pattinsonian?
I'm sure there's something.
What's
You got me.
yeah, come on. You're gonna be
I
one now.
Oh, whatever it is, I guess I am one. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not sure how I
You're
feel about
surely
that.
like a cutesy name for somebody who who likes
It
Pattinson,
probably
right?
is.
After
Yeah,
Twilight? Yeah,
Twilight, there had to be immediately some kind of yeah, I
but
completely
I
agree.
don't know it.
Well, let's move on to Mark Ruffalo and the character that he played
Yeah.
because I, for me,
Yeah.
that character, it was interesting. Everyone else played their character so straight,
Mhm.
and Mark Ruffalo's character was over the top. I mean, it was
It was
the
very campy.
it
He was
was
chewing on
campy.
scenery all over the place.
It was crazy, right?
I don't know how you felt about it, but I was there for it. I liked
Oh, I
Ruffalo's
bought it.
performance.
I bought it. And it just is striking that I bought it. I think it also goes to show Mark Ruffalo is another one of those folks who I like him as the Hulk. I've always liked him fine as the Hulk. He's my favorite Hulk.
Yeah.
But
As
and
an
it, and he,
actor,
I guess because I've only seen him as Hulk, and it's such a
yeah,
that role that I
yeah.
hadn't thought of him much in terms of how good of an actor he is.
Yeah.
But to be able in a movie where everyone's playing it pretty down the middle and
Yeah.
you're playing it over the top, but managing to still fit and
Yeah.
not feel out of place, but only in the exact way you're supposed to feel out of place as that kind of character. I
Yeah.
mean, we should tell people who haven't seen it, he basically plays a Trump
Trump.
type
Yeah.
character. I mean, there's moments where it's very clear he's just full on doing a Trump
Yes.
his version of a Trump
Impression.
imitation.
Yeah.
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 So
And
what did you think of that?
I thought that worked, and I was kind of reminded of like Raul Julia in Street Fighter,
Uh,
where it's like this ridiculous movie, and the only one who really gets that they're in a ridiculous movie is Raul Julia playing M. Bison. He's like way completely over the top, and it works because that's what it is. And
yeah.
so for me, Mark Ruffalo was giving that kind of a performance. Like it's way over the top because Donald Trump is way
Way over
over
the
the
top.
top. And
Yeah.
so the way you realize how over the top he is by having people who are just like trying to live their everyday lives
Yeah.
as normal human beings there. And you see him just being way over the top. I thought the fact that he was chewing on scenery, that he that he was
Wow.
just concerned with the most ridiculous things, just really drove home the point of the craziness that we're living in. Like we may as well
Yeah.
have been on that ship going with them. And so I loved Ruffalo's performance. I was there for it. He was also real engaging to watch. He really
Yeah.
played it up, and I just thought he did a great job. I really enjoyed
I did too.
watching Ruffalo in this.
Every time his character came on the screen, I was like, okay, what are we in for now?
What's next?
I cannot wait. Let's see what's gonna happen. Yeah, it was great. All right. So we only have about a minute left. I'm curious. So at the very end of the movie, the machine that creates the duplicates,
Yeah.
the expendables, they blow it up. I'm curious, and they let Micky blow it, actually be the one to push the button to blow it up.
Yeah.
I'm curious, question. What emotion do you think that character was feeling when he blew up the printer? And do you think they conveyed that emotion well?
Yeah, so I think uh, some joy, but but I'll also dread, and so as far as conveying it, it was really just a shot, and so no, we didn't really explore very much how he was going to feel about that, and so it kind of left you wondering a bit, and I don't know if that was an intentional choice or not, but it felt a little odd. How do you feel about it?
It felt like a missed opportunity to me.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the ending essentially of the movie, and there's got to be so much conflict. I mean, one of the pieces of conflict that happens with 18 is that 17 realizes that if he dies, that it is the end of him.
Right.
Whereas every other time he kind of welcomed death or wasn't too concerned about death because he knew he was going to be. And all of a sudden he becomes aware of his mortality, and he's going to, and that's kind of part of the tension for the last half of the movie.
Yeah.
And that's the same tension with blowing up the printer.
Yeah,
this is full mortality when we blow it up, and it was kind of
fell flat. Yeah,
and they didn't. There was such an opportunity to explore the emotions and what it means to be mortal and what it means to be human. Since he's not, he's a printed android type thing, but it has human memories and
right.
I felt like there was so much that was lost opportunity. Anyway.
Yeah.
I have 12 more questions I'd love to ask you, but we need to move on. We need to get to our next segment so we can talk about the theology and the politics of Mickey 17.
Welcome back to the Moonshine Jesus Show. We're entering our Theopolitico segment where we are talking about the theology and politics of Mickey 17. We do love to geek out about all of this stuff, but we also love to really kind of delve in deep to it. So I want to build on what we were just talking about, Mark.
Okay.
And that's, we find that Mickey discovers that even though he thinks that it's really just kind of coming and getting another shot at life, he dies. He's right back where he started. That really, we discover that each of the clones is a little bit different than the one that came
Mhm.
before it, and it can have wildly different personalities, in fact. And so we also discover that the people around Mickey, for instance, recognize that each of the clones is a little bit
Right.
different. And so I'm curious, Mark, if it's not just memories that make a person, it's not just looks, that make a person a person, because each of the Mickeys looked alike. I'm curious, what is it that this is a very light kind of philosophical question, but what is it
Yeah.
that makes us human, man? What is it that makes us who we are?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think those are two different questions, right? What makes us human and what makes us who we are? What makes us
Mm.
human, I think, is a philosophical question for the ages, because there are those who would make the argument that there are folks alive who would pass as human, who certainly, based on their actions, are less than humane and maybe would.
Mm.
And then you got folks that are calling other people that they don't like, and trying to make them out to be insects or rodents or animals or whatever. So that's a whole different question that we could
Mhm.
spend an entire show talking about. But let's talk about what makes us who we are. And
Mhm.
I mean, I think part of what the show is telling us and showing us, uh, is that what makes us who we are is really how we choose to process and live out of our experiences,
Mm.
whether that's a moment of an experience, a learned experience, a piece of exposure to a particular education, because each one of these Mickeys is a little bit different, but has the same memories. So there's something about them that they're choosing how they're going to process all of the things that they know about existence thus far and how they're going to apply it to the moment. So for me, that's what makes us ultimately, all of us, who we are, is all that history of memories and learning and experience, but more importantly, how we choose to apply it to each and every moment. What about
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, I like that, and yeah, I think you're right. I think that you know being human is more than just existing. That more
Yeah.
than just having the DNA that makes us Homo sapiens. That being
Right.
human is about something more
Yeah.
than that. That being human is about living life and experiencing compassion and kindness and relationships. And I think that one of the problems with Western society is that we often think about life in terms of just uh, just like accumulating more and just trying to achieve a success at a job or something like that,
Hmm.
and we
Hmm.
forget that being a human being is about more than just existing. It's about more than just surviving. It's about more than accumulating. It is about how it is that we experience life and how it is that we experience our relationships and all of that stuff. And
Yeah.
I think it would be better for us. We would all be better off if we were trying to not just survive or trying not just to get the next thing, but trying to really be present in the moment and be who we're with. So I think, yeah, I think you're right that being human is one thing. And I think that one of the things the movie does a pretty good job of showing us is that it is nature and nurture that makes us who we are.
Hmm.
And so like even though each of these clones is supposed to be a different clone, there's something biologically different about them, that even though they have the same experience, that they also are different people. I think that that's interesting. It's something that I've
Yeah.
thought about a lot, in family dynamics, how it is that children who are raised by the same parents can be radically different.
Radically different. Yeah.
Have very similar experiences, have the same kind of upbringing, literally by the same people, and be incredibly different
Yeah.
people. And so I think
It's pretty amazing to see. I mean, my kids are very
yeah.
much that way,
Mm,
you know,
mm,
but and they're only you know, a few years apart, and so they had the same experience and the same environment and the same everything, but their paths forward ended up. By the way, I couldn't be prouder of both of my kids. They're
mm,
the one thing they have in common is their humanity and how much they care
mm.
about people around them and anyone really, how much they're willing to risk and extend themselves for other people. But in terms of what their lives look like and what they're getting out of life and what they're doing and what they're pursuing and what makes them happy, wow, yeah, completely different.
That's really incredible, and I think about that in terms of, like, church communities too, because one of the
Yeah.
things I've been thinking a lot about in terms of church communities is that congregations believe what you tell them about themselves, and so if in congregations they hear that, like, they're not worthy, they're not good enough or whatever, then people believe that, but if
Mm,
you tell people that they're fundamentally good, they're worthy, they're capable of changing things, that people believe that too. And
yeah.
so even though there's like this ragtag group of very different types of people that maybe it's that like one of the things we try to do when we're at our best is to help people realize their humanity and
Yeah,
that like our
absolutely.
common
Yeah.
humanity, our shared humanity. Like if more churches uh raise their congregations like you raise your kids,
Right.
maybe we would be much better off as a
Yeah,
species.
I have no doubt that you're correct. Yeah, and not just, you know, yes, it applies to churches, but to all
Yeah.
communities. The
Mhm.
way that you choose to address your community and let people know who they are within that community and how they impact and affect other people, man, it makes all the difference in the world.
It does. It does. You know, Mark, one of the questions that everyone wants to ask Mickey is what it's like to die. And he is tired of answering that question. He doesn't want to talk about it. He doesn't like that he has signed up for this life and that he has to die over and over again and
Right.
experience that. Mark, what do you think it is? Because I think it's one of the reasons that we have religion is
Of
that
course it
people
is.
are curious about death. What do you think it is that makes people so fascinated with the idea of death? And how do you think we're doing as a religious community, as a religion in dealing with death?
I think I'm going to answer those in reverse order.
Okay.
The church really sucks at dealing with death. It's one of the things that we mess up the most, and that our, you know, even this movie basically has a hellhole in it. Once
Mm-hmm.
they die, they get dumped down this hole that leads to these giant fires. It's a hellhole. They get dumped into a hell. You can call it whatever you
Yeah.
want. That's what's going on there. And the church is, you know, particularly its focus on heaven and hell and
Mhm,
suffering and eternal damnation is really a horrible thing that we've done with death. We've also over focused on death that
mhm.
made that the important piece of such an important piece of our religion that we are overly focused on it and we tend to forget the here and now because of it. So I think the church has done an absolutely horrible job, and I've just hinted at my answer to the other part about it. Is we do have a fascination about it, and Mickey kind of is a representation of it in that um, once he realizes that he's mortal, he's scared of it because it's an unknown and it's something that's this space that feels so final to him all of a sudden.
Mhm.
And I think that we've done such a bad job as a church, as the church, of focusing on it, that we've scared people more of it than they ever needed to be. Yes, we do not know. We're not going to know. It's silly for us to continue to. Is there something? I think just scientifically, there's something. Energy's got to go somewhere. Whether we'll have consciousness past that, I don't know. There's no way we're
Yeah,
ever going to know that. What's important is to stop focusing so much on that and start
yeah.
pulling it back to the here and now. What we were just talking about in the first question of let's use our experiences and things we learn in our relationships, and let's apply that to the here and now and stop focusing so much in the sweet by and by that we're never going to know anything about. So
Yeah.
that's a little bit of a ramble there, but that's kind of where I am with the topic of death and what we should be focusing with on instead, because the church, I
Yeah.
think, is really stumbling all over it and messing it up. What do
Yeah,
you
I
think?
think you're right. I think we're fascinated with death because it's hard to imagine the world without ourselves. And so, you know what I mean? We see the world from our
Yeah, I
own
really don't know what y'all are
perspective.
gonna do. I mean,
We're
you're gonna be rudderless. I don't know what you're gonna do.
This, but luckily, you and I are going to live forever, so it's going
Oh
to be
well,
okay.
I forgot about that.
We're okay.
You got the printer at your house, right?
No, you've got it. You're number 200 and
Oh,
whatever.
jeez. We
So
might have a problem here
I
because
hope
I
I'm
haven't seen
backed
it in a while.
up. You know, that we're fascinated because we want we want to continue. I think most of us want to
Yeah.
continue to live in some way. But I think you're right that religion has not done a good job, and I think it's been the fundamental reason is because it has been more concerned with keeping people in line. Death is like a
Mhm.
stick to keep people in line than it is about actually
Absolutely.
helping people explore what the possibilities might be. I want to ask one
Yeah.
more question
Yeah.
before we move because we're almost done with this segment. And I do
All
want to
right.
talk about Ruffalo's character here
Yeah.
and the wife who's only concerned with making sauce.
Sauces.
I,
That's good
I
on.
I can't. We
That's
can't
so
not talk
beautifully
about the
absurd.
sauce.
The sauce is so beautifully absurd.
It is so beautifully absurd that she's just cared about something that is she only cares about something that is completely impractical that nobody else cares about, that it's just like her luxury of being able to be obsessed with this one thing that makes no difference in anyone's life. I think it's just the epitome of what life is like right now is we've got the ultra rich concerned only with their own stuff, their own well-being. And so I'm thinking about Ruffalo's character here. He's talking about the muddy people, and he calls them the muddy people in his perfect Trump
Yeah.
impersonation, you know. And he says, "I'm creating a world on a pure white planet filled
Oh,
with
that was
superior
such an icky
people
line.
like
Oh my,
you and me."
such a
And
cringeworthy line.
I
Oh God.
I'm just curious, Mark. We know what he wants. What kind of a society is Trump wanting to create right now? Trump and his
Oh, yeah.
cronies. What do they want the United States to be?
Well, it's pretty clear when you really sit down and analyze the all of the policies that are being made, for whether it's
Diverse. They want to be
yes,
diverse. They want to lift
no,
up the economically
mm,
oppressed.
mhm.
They'd love
Okay,
a variety of different languages. I
okay,
think.
okay, okay.
Does that sound right?
No, 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 no,
Oh
no,
shoot!
no, no.
No. Okay.
It's so clear that I could go through. We don't have the time and pick out the policies, but
Yeah.
essentially all they want is a very white, very uneducated, conservative populace. That's all they
Mhm.
want. Period. They don't. You can tie almost everything they're doing to making the rich rich and having a very white, very uneducated populace. That's what the conservative populace. I mean, that's it, right?
I think you're right. Yeah, and the ultimate goal being to uh, continue to serve those who are wealthy so that they continue to
Mhm.
get wealthier, and to continue
Absolutely.
to serve those who are already in power so they continue to have more power, and not just in this generation but as we're going forward. And I think that you're exactly right. That's why we want to empower the uneducated base
Yeah.
for exactly that reason, and it
Yeah.
is terrifying.
It is
And
indeed.
I would really love it if we didn't have someone chewing on the scenery in real
In
life,
real
just
life,
like
yeah.
just like in the show. Hey, look, I would love to ask more questions about this because there actually is a lot of theology
Yeah.
and politics in this. But if I do that, we won't get to our favorite segment, the "Make Me Look Stupid" segment. And we've got to get to that. So why don't we
Indeed.
take a break, take a sip, and come on back and try to make each other look stupid.
welcome to the Make Me Look Stupid segment, where we proceed to try to make our co-hosts look stupid, or to make them make a prediction so they might look stupid in the future, or admit that we're feeling kind of stupid and we need help with the answer to a question, which is exactly what I'm going to start this segment off doing. I have this question
Mhm.
that quickly plagued me about this movie. And we've talked about the printer multiple times that
Mhm.
reprints people.
Mhm.
And they traveled this massive distance. And it was important to have this printer so that they could have experiments, that if they needed an expendable person, but they could replace them. So we didn't
Mhm.
just keep killing people off. It's essential to their
Mhm.
survival.
It is, yes.
It's so freaking essential. Why was there only one? I mean, this makes no sense to me. At the end of it, they're blowing up the printer, and I'm like, wait a minute, y'all don't have another printer? Like, like, like everything you're doing in some ways is actually centered on being able to have expendables. And you travel that far with one printer? What?
And were there other Expendables other than Mickey? That
I
was that
didn't. They
something we
never.
got an answer to?
We certainly didn't get introduced to them. I think just because there were the law that there couldn't be duplicates makes me
Right.
wonder. Makes me believe there must have been. And so we were
Yeah.
seeing his story, but when he blew it up, the other Expendables must have been going through the same emotional roller coaster that he's bound to be going through.
See,
But
I wondered if there were other Expendables or not, because whenever he signed up, they really seemed surprised that someone was willing to actually go
that's true.
through the program. They're like, "Really? You
Are you
you
gonna
want to
do
do
this?
that? Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah.
You
Here's
understand
the
what we're telling you,
you know what
right?
we're doing, right? Yeah, yeah. My impression was that the reason they only had one is because it was illegal on Earth, and so they had
Okay.
this one that they were taking in the ship to go
Yeah,
through.
maybe.
Yeah.
That's as good of an answer as I could come up with. I have no clue. It just seems like a plot fault to me. It's like that you're gonna do everything in your power to bring it back up to something that's that important in your survival.
But so you've got a backup printer, right?
Well, I thought it was at your house.
Yeah, I'll have to check. I'll have to check.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right. All
yeah.
right.
Okay. Okay. I've got a question for you, Mark,
Yes.
and it also has to do with the printer, but I
Okay.
want to apply it to real life. I'm curious about this.
Okay.
So they had banned this on Earth, the printing, because they began to realize there were ethical concerns with this. I think the way it's put is it violates every natural law we have on this Earth, and so it could only be done in space on this long voyage. I'm wondering, Mark, are there technologies that we're exploring right now that are dangerous to the point that they should be banned? Or should we
Ooh.
let technology kind of be developed, less regulated, and just have technology for technology's sake?
I'm going to take the middle road.
Okay.
I, I I I I think we should be exploring all the technology that's being developed, but I think that we need more of supervision. I'll say we need to be monitoring it more closely. We need, I don't know, morality boards, for lack of a better term, off the top of my head. That puts the boundaries in where that technology is beginning to go into a dangerous space for humanity, or is beginning to cross some questionable moral lines. I think that that's what we need. I think the knee jerk reaction is saying, "Well, that's not a moral thing. We should never do that." I think that's really kind of, I'm going to say, an ignorant approach.
Mhm.
I think we need to be open minded about exploring science so we can learn more and make the most of this world and life, and that we can, but that it needs to be monitored when we're starting to mess around with cloning and that kind of thing. That's my take. What do you feel about it?
Yeah, I think that we should be exploring technology, but not unregulated. I think unregulated anything tends to be a mistake, and so we always need
Yeah,
regulations. And I do think that that's one thing that faith has to offer the modern world is
sure.
that faith is supposed to be thinking about moral issues. I think the place where faith fails on that is that a lot of people do have kind of knee jerk reactions in the faith community that aren't
Mhm.
based on anything other than like
Fear.
fear. And so I think about that in say embryonic stem cell research, for instance.
Yeah,
There's no religious reason not to do that. There's nothing you can point to in the Bible that would define
yeah.
an embryonic stem
Yet
cell as
yet
alive.
the biggest resistance.
Is from the religious community. And
Yeah,
so I think that if we're talking about faith being a voice in that, it needs to be like logical faith, like open-minded but logical faith. But I do think that that's something that faith should have a concern with, or have some has something to offer, is thinking about morality. But I
absolutely.
also admit that that faith is also the scariest place and in a lot of these conversations too.
Yeah,
And I
can
guess
be.
Mark, it just points to the fact that I, one of my big frustrations is that people who claim to be the most faithful seem to have the least knowledge about what the Bible actually says or Jesus actually taught. And I don't know about you, but
Yeah.
it gets that gets a little old.
It does. It gets a bit tiresome. I think that that's certainly one of the things that progressive Christianity has to offer to the world is a more logical, more thoughtful, more mindful faith
Yeah,
um, that avoids some of the pitfalls of a faith that's more fear driven and where you're taught to shut your mind off and just follow the
yeah,
leader. Um,
yeah.
it's certainly one of the strengths that progressive Christianity has to offer. Listen, we could continue going on, but we have run out of our time here together. So we need to figure out what we're
Aw.
going to do. I know it's not, but fortunately, I have an expendable drink that's refilled itself somehow, so I'm
Oh,
fine.
good.
I reprinted in the last break, so I'm good to go. See,
You
there
got the
was your
printer.
there was your mistake. You didn't name it an expendable bourbon because then it would have replenished.
That's right. Where's that bottle?
But we need something to watch next week. And I got to
Yeah.
tell you, I watched a movie this weekend that I think we really have to talk about.
Mm.
Thunderbolts, man. Uh,
Thunderbolts.
they're
Yes.
it feels like they're finally getting Marvel back on its feet, figuring out what
Yeah.
they need to be doing. And I have to tell you, there's some themes in this that I think that will be really fascinating to talk about. So, are you in? We good to do Thunderbolts?
Marvel, a new movie, one that's better than the rest. I'm in. Yes,
All right.
Thunderbolts. I want to see it.
Fantastic. So,
Yeah.
all of you who are listening, make sure that you catch that before our next Monday show. Again, as always, we just thank you for listening. We thank you for downloading the podcast. It's you that allows us to do this, and it is our favorite part of the week. So, thank you. Until the next time, we'll see you on the Moonshine Jesus Show.
Moonshine